So we were talking about like the rise of a lot of these like financial apps, like obviously Robinhood's been big in the news, and then you were telling me about Stash, and there's things like Acorns, and then I think what we're getting to is the idea of like, well, do I use these things, and what do I think about them?
Yes, and one important caveat is are they valuable for someone who knows nothing about investing and who doesn't have a lot of money to invest?
Yeah,
But I'm definitely intrigued about. I want to get involved, so I'm looking for the best way and the easiest way to get started.
yeah. No, so again, I think it's a perfect question and segue that. So I personally don't use any like apps for investing, but I think that people think that there's a major difference between these things, and there's really not, right? So the main thing that I preach to people is just be consistent. Just invest. It doesn't matter if you're investing in Acorns or Robinhood or Stash, or you have a brokerage account with Vanguard or Chase or whoever. It's like saying, does it matter where you get your milk from? Is it Ralph's or Vaughn's or but like no, it doesn't matter. Like you're getting milk, right? Or
So it's
butter or eggs. Like
literally all the same.
it's all the same. It's all the same. Now the question becomes, how much butter do you eat, and how many eggs do you eat, and how much milk do you buy? Well, then maybe there's a difference there, right? You go, oh, well, maybe I'm going to go to Costco now because I want to have a little bit better of a discount, or I really won't go to Costco because if I buy their stuff, I'll waste a lot because I don't consume that much. So not a perfect one-to-one analogy, but really the idea with investing is just to always invest. And so whatever those companies are investing in, there's no major difference if they're investing in a fractional share with, let's call it like Apple, or you go buy a share of Apple yourself through a brokerage account. You're still buying a piece of Apple. It's literally all the same. There's no benefit either way.
Okay, so can you pick any one of them, any one of these apps that I could download right now and kind of walk me through just how it works, the benefit? I mean, literally, this is for me, it's just an app, and I have no idea of how it
Yeah.
works here.
Well, if I was advising someone, and the times I've talked to friends about these things, what I basically always said is, look, like I think it's better to open a true brokerage account, right? So you would go on like say like Vanguard or whoever you bank with. Generally, if you like, I bank with Chase, and Chase has a brokerage side where you can actually invest. You can open a separate account that's an actual brokerage account. And so what you would basically do is when you open that account, you're going to fund it with money. So you're going to go from your bank to whatever that account is. You're going to transfer some money over, and it's going to transfer from like your checking or savings or wherever you want it to come from. And it's going to go into a money market account. And a money market account is just kind of like, think of it as like your checking account for your investments. It's just a place where you're holding the money so that when you buy a share of Apple or you buy a share of Amazon, it's where that money comes from, right? So you're holding your money in a money market account, and wherever you're going to invest it, you're just pulling from that account and buying a share, right?
Okay.
So the apps are basically, they are your brokerage account. It's the same thing, and you're still doing the same process, right? You're still having to link your bank account because they need to get money from somewhere. So it's the exact same process. The only thing that I think about the apps and all these things is that, are you taking investment as seriously? So for example, if you're just trading back and forth and buying and selling and buying, well, you're more trading than investing. So I think every person should definitely have a long-term investment. So for example, when you open your brokerage account and then you decide to invest, you're going to have to tell them, is this like a trading account? Like, so you can open an IRA, like a Roth IRA with a company like Vanguard. And then when you put money into that account, it's still invested in the same exact things, the same company, same everything. The difference is you've told them and you've told the government, I'm putting that money for my retirement. So the government allows you to write off, I think it's like $6,000 if you're under 65 per year. So if I open a Roth IRA or an IRA account with Vanguard, I can then take money that I'm going to put in there, and I can put up to $6,000 every year, and I can write that money off. So whether that money is invested in Apple or Amazon or an ETF or a Vanguard fund, it's just money I'm telling the government for my retirement. Then in my brokerage account, if I want to just trade, right, I can still put money in there and then buy individual stocks. But I'm using it as a brokerage, so I'm not telling the government that it's for my retirement. Because once I put it in my retirement, if I want to take it out, there's a penalty for it. If I'm in my brokerage, I don't get the write-off, but I can trade it back and forth. So
Got it.
the apps are basically just a way for you to invest without you having to make those delegations. You're just putting money in and you're buying stocks, and they're holding your assets for you as your brokerage.
So
So
buying stocks, is there an actual process to that? If I were to put $500 in one of these apps right now through an account, do I actually have to go on and know what I'm doing, or is it one of those,
so those are two questions, right? So yes, you should know what you're buying, right?
of course,
But when you're buying something, all you're doing is buying it. So like if you go on, an app like Nike.com and you buy a pair of shoes, you know that the money is coming from your checking account. So if you go on, let's say Vanguard, and you buy Nike, the company, it's coming from your money market account. It's the same
correct.
thing. You're just buying it, right? So meaning when you say, do you know like what you have to do or what you're buying, all you're really saying is, do I want to invest in Nike? And if I do, I pull some money from my money market and I buy that stock, and then it holds the stock for me. And that's basically it.
And then will it allow you to buy a portion or a fraction of a stock? So let's say Nike is at $1,000. I
Mhm.
only have 500 in my account. Can I buy half a share?
So at traditional brokerage firms, they haven't really adopted that as much. I know some firms that I can't remember exactly who, if it's like Fidelity or one of these other companies, they've started to allow you to do that. But again, I think what I tell people, and I think the reason these things have become so popular is because we think that by spending less, we have a greater upside. And so my point would be, if Nike's worth $1,000 and you wanted to buy 1/10 and spend $100, then whatever Nike, if Nike gives it to 10,000, you still only own 1/10. So
Right.
never think of it as like how much you're able to buy. Think of it as how much you want to invest. So if I want to invest $1,000 and I go, I want to make a 10% return on my money, I'm going to have $1,100 at the end of that. Doesn't matter what I own, doesn't matter how high the share price is. I'm saying I want to buy this company, I want to invest $1,000, and I expect to make X amount of return. So that's the difference between like the investment mindset and the gambling mindset. Because the gambling mindset says, "Ooh, I want to buy a piece of all these companies because maybe one of them blows up and I make a lot of money." But the problem is you've still only bought in a piece, and your $100 or 200 or whatever the fraction is will still only multiply off of that amount. So the idea, that's why I'm saying the idea is to be consistent. If you're putting in $100 every month, over time, it builds and it compounds. And you should be thinking about your money as, I'm putting something in for the long run, not how much can I pop it in one
And
moment.
and that's exactly what I was wondering. So, obviously with the pandemic and everything else, I don't have $1,000 that I want to just throw onto a stock. But I guess my question is, would you advise someone like me, starting with $100 and $100 a month, and by the end of the year, now I've got one full share, and continuing to do that until,
Well,
or does
I
that
would
just
look
not
at
make
it.
sense?
No, it definitely makes sense. It definitely, but I would say, if whatever money you have to invest, don't think about how many shares you can buy or how you're going to add to it. Like, what is a company you want to invest in and how much you have to invest, and then just do it.
That's exactly what I was wondering. So I've got
That's it.
$25. I throw that $25 towards Amazon. Next
Yep.
month, I get
Yep.
$500, throw that towards Amazon. And
Yep.
in 10 years, I'll wake up and I'll own some serious shares.
Yeah. Well, and forget about the shares, because that doesn't matter. The shares is just the allocation of what you own, the amount of what you own. Really, what you're really saying to yourself is that 25 plus that 500 plus that 1,000 plus that 50 plus whatever I put in, what was my return on investment? So the number of shares I own doesn't really matter, because it's the amount of money that I actually put in and then how much I expect to get out, right? So
Right.
sometimes we get too focused on, I only own a share or half a share or 10 shares or whatever it is. It's just purely the money you put in and what you think you're going to get out of it. And that's it. And so, these apps have made it more accessible to people where you're able to actually buy fractions, whereas before you were never able to buy fractions of shares. You had to buy the full share. So if you wanted to be an investor in Amazon, you were losing out, because if you didn't have, $3,000 to put in, you couldn't buy one. So now it's made it more accessible. But I always tell people, just simplify it. Just think of it as whatever amount of money I want to invest and whatever companies I believe in, buy those companies, buy whatever you can, hold it for the long run. And whenever you're consistently putting more in, It's the return on your total investment that you should be thinking about.
So I have a two-part question. One, let's say I'm contributing for 2 years. Is that my money to where I can pull it out whenever I want without
Yeah.
being penalized?
Yes, if you're not allocating it to a retirement account and it's just a brokerage account, it's just like a trading account, then yes, like you can sell your stocks whenever you want at the current price, and that's your money. It goes right back. So it'll just go right back once you sell it from this, stock holding account. It'll go right back in your money market account, and then that money is available. And if you want to transfer that money back to your checking account at your bank, you can do that too.
So then it's safe to say that for someone like me, using one of these apps is probably better than just putting money into a regular savings account, right? Depending on,
Well,
I guess you could lose as well.
Well, yes. I mean, and again, I think the main question there is always, what's your time horizon? Because I always say, look, if you have $500 and you know you're going to need that money, then that's not investment money.
Right.
Then you need that money. Investment money is money you don't need and you won't need for the immediate future. It's something that you're saying, I'm investing for my future, right? If you need the money anytime in the next, 3 to 6 months, you probably don't want to invest it, because if you have to take it out, and let's just assume, because we don't know, Amazon or Apple or Nike, they drop in price. Well, the money you put in, you lost some because you had to take it out. If you
Right.
didn't have to take it out, then you can weather the storm, and over time, really good solid companies will be worth more money.
That makes sense.
So you really want to put in what you can afford to leave in for the long haul, not that like I'm going to need this in 6 months, or because once you get into that, now you're gambling, now you're speculating, now you're saying I'm going to put $1,000 into this because I think it's going to be worth 2,000 next month, and then when it is, I'll take it out and then I'll have my money to pay my bills. No,
Right.
you shouldn't do that.
No.
This is long term.
Okay, and in long term, I'm assuming we're talking 5, 10 plus years.
At least, I mean, ideally, for a young person like you, right? It's like, until you retire, like you shouldn't, if you believe in Amazon, if you believe Amazon's going to be worth, way more in the future, and it's going to be such a big part of our lives as it already is, then why would you ever want to like sell part of it because you say, well, I want to ride that ride, right? Like I want to be an investor in that company. Now, of course, life events happen. You want to buy a house, you have a kid, like, and so sure, plan for that, but like the money should be for the long term for sure. And you should definitely have separate money for like your bills, your emergency funds. You should have money for your retirement that you put in. And then if you have trading money on top of that, then great, then buy things, but everything you should think of should be long term.
This has been The Invested Life with Adam Khalil. Subscribe, like, comment, but most importantly, share the information you learned, and share the video with a friend or someone who you think might find value from it.